Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing a flip through of my daughter Isabella's Volume 1 story album. This is the first time that I am sharing one of my children's story albums, and I actually will be filming another video shortly that will share a flip through of my son's. I just recently finished both of these Volume 1 albums up, so I'm just very, very excited to be able to show you what a story album looks like when it's done for a specific person instead of a more generalized everybody in the family type of album. If you have not already seen my album flip throughs of Volume 1 through 3 of my family story albums, I do have those available here on YouTube. I have a playlist where I will link up all of my story album flip throughs, and then in addition to that playlist, each album individually has its own playlist that includes the flip through as well as all of the process videos for the layouts that you can find in this album. So as we are going through the pages, if there is one with a process video that you want to take note of and go and watch, you'll be able to find those in that playlist. I will make sure to link both playlists down in the description box below so you can find that there for your reference. So Isabella's first album I completed in a pink linen 6x8 album. These were sold as part of the Week in the Life collection back in 2019, and I actually had gotten two of them. One of them had a broken mechanism here in the middle, which I ended up fixing that myself and using it for this story album. The other one I got as a replacement, and that one came in totally fine. On the spine of my albums, I always put the name and then the volume number there. So that way we know whose album this is and which number in the series. Once we get inside of the album, I've also created a title page digitally using a digital stamp set from Ali Edwards, and it just says Isabella's name over and over in a diagonal repeat. I printed that off on matte white photo paper, added a label sticker into the middle. These label stickers came from an older One Little Word kit, and I like them because they have a larger area at the top where I can stamp volume and the number, and then two spots at the bottom where I can put dates. When I'm dating these albums, I always date the very first month for which there is a project that I created, and the last month for which there is a project created. So that gives me a time frame of when I actually told these stories. Now, I add my stories into this album randomly. They're not done in a chronological manner. They're just kind of wherever it fits, it sticks. So the very first page here is a 6x8 layout I created about going trick-or-treating last year at Halloween time. I used the physical Stories by the Month kit from October 2020 to create this layout. Next, I have one of the very first story projects I ever created. This one was using the Play Story Kit. This was the first story kit that I subscribed to, and I mostly did this digitally. I had taken a picture of my daughter and her doll, and it just made me reflect back to having dolls myself as a child. So I did some journaling about what this meant to me, and then just stapled on the plastic phrase there and added a chipboard at the bottom. Everything else was added on here with a digital stamp or just a text box. Then I've got another couple stories using the Play Story Kit again, and neither of these have a process video. This also does not have a process video. At the time that I was creating these, I didn't even have a YouTube yet. This one is about going to the beach and my daughter playing with her cousin. I used Photoshop to add my text on here. I also added this kite, which was a stamp. I added that digitally, and then I stamped on there with black ink to create some additional flag type shapes, and a playful story here at the bottom. This I paired with a 2x2 page protector where I've added in a bunch of photos, and this is a story all of its own. These are photos of toys that my daughter really loved to play with at this time in her life. So I've got, all of her unicorn stuff. I have her Play-Doh, some rocks, Legos, and coloring pages. And I love that she has such a fondness for color, because that allowed me to take some pictures featuring all of the rainbow colors, and then I could pair that with the rainbow, they're not leather, they are rubber pieces, and then also this rainbow pad where I added my journaling in. On the back side, I have a 2-page layout. This one is about my daughter turning 5. Again, there is no process video for this one. They are coming up eventually. All of this I created prior to having a YouTube channel. So on the left-hand side, I've got some photos from her birthday party. And then on the right-hand side, I took a picture of her holding a number 5. And then every year I do the same interview with her. So I had her answer a bunch of questions. I wrote down her answers, and then this is the same questions I ask year after year. So I've got her turning 5 and her turning 6, which I believe is also in this album. This one right here is another layout for turning 5. So this kind of all goes together. This one, I talked about her birthday party. I talked about her growing older. This one is actually a little mini letter that I wrote to her. And then she had this big blow up 5 balloon. So I had her take that outside and we took a picture in front of the playground. Her birthday is in January. So luckily it hadn't been real snowy at this point in time. So it wasn't super, super cold where we could go out and do this. This was using the February Stories by the Month kit from 2020. And I believe this was a February Stories by the Month kit, maybe the 2019 digital kit, or maybe the 2020 digital kit. This could have been the 2020 digital kit and the 2019. I'm trying to think how that works. All you need to know, this one was a digital kit. This one was a physical kit. They were both from February. Okay, my next story was using the List Story Kit. No process video for this one. This was a picture I had taken of my daughter outside. I created my own chipboard by layering up a printout of the chipboard with a bunch of layers of cardstock underneath until it made it kind of puffy there. And then I added in a list of 10 things that make me smile about my daughter. This one is the first one that has a process video. Yay! This was a project that I completed during my Watch Story Kit Crush series. This one, I wanted to talk about all of the YouTube channels that Isabella was watching at the time. So I have little tiny photos that I added into a cutout section of this 6x4 card, and then I added my journaling around the outside of the card. This next one also has a process video here on YouTube. This one was using the List Story Kit again, and for this one, I wanted to talk about the top of Izzy's list in terms of animals at the zoo. We are avid zoo goers. If you've followed me for any amount of time, you probably know that about us. And giraffes have forever really been Isabella's favorite animal. So I have a bunch of pictures with the giraffes here, and then I talked about, why she loves them and just some things about some facts about giraffes and specifically about the ones at our zoo. This next page does not have a process video. This one was using the February Stories by the Month kit. I believe this was a physical one. I could probably tell based on the paper. Yes, a physical kit. For this one, I talked about my love for Isabella and the role of her being a big sister. For this layout, I took a picture of her against a white wall and then kind of brushed the wall to make it whiter using the Dodge tool inside of Photoshop. For the right-hand side of this, actually, this was not digital. This was not physical. This was a digital kit, now that I think about this again. Digital kit. For the right hand side of this, I used this little polka dot pattern, which was a portion of one of those digital cards, and I just made it bigger and made 2x2 sections that I could add into all of the pockets. Then I created a template for a wonky heart that I used to cut out 6 pictures of my daughter's face, just different facial expressions she was making while I was taking her picture. And then in the alternating pockets here, I created my own watercolor pink and kind of bluish toned page, and then I cut that apart into that same heart shape. So these were ones that I created myself using watercolors. This next page does have a process video. This one was for the Give Story Kit Crush series, and this is a list of gratitudes from Izzy. So I sat down with her one day, asked her to tell me some things that she's thankful for, and then I wrote that out on the card and called this one good. This, again, I did the same thing as before, where I have a picture of her on the couch where I just told her to sit on the couch and smile. And then I cracked jokes and all kinds of stuff and just snapped pictures away. So she's got all kinds of facial expressions going on, and I loved collaging those on the opposite side of the page. I also loved adding in these giant square chipboard pieces in some of the pockets. The scale of them is really great, and then I created a stamped background that went behind them. Super fun. Love the way that this one turned out. Next, I have another layout that does have a process video. It's this side here. This I created using the Progress Story Kit for Story Kit Crush. This one I talked about embracing imperfection, especially when it comes to artwork. My daughter is an avid artist. She loves to make art and gets really frustrated when it doesn't work out the way she wants it to. So it's something that we're working on, and this was a great opportunity for me to document that story. Now inside of this pocket, I have this tag flip book that all of the tag pieces are on the outside, but the card is on the inside. I had stamped out or punched out a half circle here so that they would lay nicely down against the card. And then behind each of these tags, I have photos of my daughter creating artwork and then some of the projects that she has made. And the last one talks about her skill as an artist and how, you know, I'm just in awe of what she is able to do. On the opposite side, I have a story that I created using the Connect Story Kit. This one also has a process video. I have a transparency page here that is the full size of the outside of the page protector sizing here. I then layered up a bunch of different hearts, some that were from the plastic set, some that I cut out of my own journaling cards, and some that are chipboard. This goes across the center of the photo, and then when you flip it over, I have a section here where I've added my handwritten journaling on the back. So it's kind of hidden journaling per se. The photo in the background is one of my daughter and my father-in-law, and that's what this story was all about, was their special connection. My next story here is one from Halloween. This one I created last year during October Daily season. However, the story is from when my daughter was very young. I want to say she was a year and a half-ish at this point. This is October 2016. For this project, I printed out a large photo and then I altered a card from In a Creative Bubble to be a full page as well. I added in my journaling here and the dates, a few more pictures about this particular story, which was all about making Halloween aprons that are costume aprons. And then I've got some color cast design title and then some extra little pieces from my October Daily supplies. The cool thing about this one is I had downloaded a digital kit from Paper Cakes, and it's Serena B is who owns and designs the Paper Cakes supplies. She had this really cool piece right here that is the like marker part. I don't know necessarily what that's called, of the Ouija board. So I made this interactive where you could move it as though it were part of the Ouija board and read the title, Having a Wicked Good Time. I did this by adding a piece of twine here and then creating a mechanism that allows it to go through the middle. This I do have a process video for, however, it was done during a live video that I did here on YouTube. I have included the live videos where I created projects or layouts in this album, but know that for, at least for this one, the beginning part of the live, I did a couple of layouts in my October Daily album. And then at the end, middle to the end of the video, I worked on this project right here. So if you open up that one, you want to go to about the halfway point, and then you'll see where I'm working on this page. Next, I have another Halloween story, and this is the same thing where I did this during a live video. I have included that in my playlist, but this one is towards the end of that video, so you're going to want to skip over at least half if you want to just specifically see this page. For this one, I created a layered page here using a Snapchat filter photo. This one I have another one of those Colorcast design titles. This one says Got Candy. And then I also had these spider web coasters that I cut in half, and I added half of it here. And then I added a couple of pieces into this pocket right here, just as something fun and different and textured. On the right-hand side, I have a 2x2 page where I have added in a bunch of photos of us taking selfies with the Snapchat spooky filters. And then I also have some sequin mix in here as well, just for something fun to add into this page. And then I also have a bunch of little pieces that I've added into the book as well. Just kind of playing around with adding different shapes into these pages. It makes it really fun to work with. The back side, I have a couple more of those selfies, and then I have the journaling that goes along with it. I don't believe anything pulls out of this one. Nope, nothing interactive on that large page. This background, I will also say, is kind of cool because Izzy and I went through a period of time where we were creating watercolor backgrounds, and this is one that she created. So I actually kept it, cut it up, and put it inside of her album. Next, I have a layout that's about Isabella turning 6. This one does not have a process video, but this is where you can see that I have taken that same quiz from before and I've added it onto this layout. For Izzy's 6th birthday, we went to the zoo for the first time after about a year from the start of the pandemic. And then this year, which would be 2021, we've made it a goal to go once every month. It is currently August, actually no, it's September 1st when I'm filming this, and we have gone every single month so far. So that's been really, really cool. I've got just some plain photos and cards over here. I layered up some of the stickers to create a banner at the top. And then this one was a 3x4 journaling card that I cut apart and reassembled on this page in order to create a longer space for journaling. Next, I have a layout that I do have a process video for. This was using the Progress Story Kit, and I wanted to talk about the progress that Izzy has had with riding her bike. Now, this would have been at this point, I want to say 2 years ago, and this was last year. So I don't have a current one. I actually created this project in 2020. For this one, I have a page protector that is divided down the middle. So you can see that here, and you'll see it on the back side as well. I added in the 2 photos that are a year apart of her on the exact same bike, and then used the journaling space to talk about her progress and how far she's come. Next, I have a layout that is using the Evening Story Kit, and this I also have a process video for. It was done for my Evening Story Kit Crush series. For this one, I have a picture of Izzy sleeping in bed. I have a quote card and some filler card, and then I have a lot of journaling over on the right side that talks about Izzy's bedtime routines. So the ways and the things that we do for her to go to bed. This one is an odd shape that I randomly put in here because on the back side, I wanted a square photo in this album, which you'll see why. So this is a story that I created using the Change Story Kit for Story Kit Crush. There is a process video for this one. This, I added a photo of Izzy growing up. So this was a newborn photo. I think this was about 3 months, 6 months, a year, when she turned 2, when she turned 3, when she turned 4, when she turned 5. So it's just a progressive photo series showing Izzy growing up, and I did some journaling about the changes that she has experienced. This next one is a layout that I created using a Colorcast design kit from, I want to say this was from April of 2021. This layout was one that I created for my patrons, so the process video for this one is over in my Patreon. I have these 4 like really big wonky flower acrylic pieces, and they are thick, but that doesn't really bother me. I don't mind putting a bunch of thick stuff in my albums. So these I used as pseudo bullet points for these sections of journaling. And then on the right hand side, I layered up some paper. This paper was from the Good Morning kit from Paper Person. And then I added spring shenanigans and these wonky wooden floral elements that mimic the look of the ones on the left side. Next, I have a story that I created using the Kindness Story Kit for Story Kit Crush. This one, I wanted to talk about some words of affirmation. I added a bunch of label stickers around the outside of my daughter and then hand wrote in there some things that are really awesome or things that I love about my daughter in ways that she shows kindness and that sort of thing. So that's what's written all over here. I used the acrylic piece and a chipboard piece, and then did a little bit more journaling in letter form on the right hand side. This story I created using the Transitions Story Kit. I have not yet crushed this kit. This was a project that I did for a creative team assignment. So for this one, I talked about the changing of the seasons to fall and how Izzy and I both love the fall. So what I did for this one, this side I kept pretty plain. So I have just a photo and journaling, another photo, and then I did fussy cut out some digital pieces from the kit. Then there was a card that had this really beautiful wreath, a fall wreath. So I printed that out, well, I blew it up and printed it out on vellum so it goes over top of the photo behind it, which is a photo of Izzy in the leaves. And then I used some word phrase stickers, but they were digital, so it's just word phrases to go around the outside edge of that photo. The next layout here is one of my all-time favorites, and it's also using the Transition Story Kit. Oh, I should say, there is a process video for this one, I believe. Yes, there is a process video and there is a process video. This one is also using the Transition Story Kit. And for this one, I wanted to talk about things that I'm excited that Izzy is learning about. So this is what I want to learn, I believe, right? I'm learning how to count and talk in Spanish, learning about rocks so I can talk to people about them. Oh, this was Izzy. This is what Izzy was saying. I asked her what are some things that she loves to learn, which makes sense because the speech bubbles are pointed to her. So things that she's excited about learning about. And then when you flip this over, this is on transparency, then there's mine. So things that I'm excited for, things that I'm looking forward to at this point in time. And I love the effect that here Izzy is in the middle and undisturbed, and here I am in the middle and undisturbed. So that did take a little bit of finagling to figure out how to get that to work, but I totally love the way that it looks. This next project also has a process video. This one I created using, I believe it was an August Stories by the Month kit. This one, again, and this is a story that repeats all the time, is a story about embracing imperfection. So for this one, I was inspired by the quote here from Morgan Harper Nichols. I had Izzy grab some paintbrushes and go pose in front of our homeschool area and snapped this picture and loved it. The right-hand side has small pictures that I took of her artwork, which this is a layout that I need to repeat again. This would have been when she was 5, so I am definitely due to have another story just like this now that she's 6, because a year later it would be really cool to have some more of her artwork in here. And then there is a piece that goes in between the two sections here that pulls out and has a ton of journaling, like an essay of journaling about embracing imperfection and how she gets that from me, the desire for things to be exactly right, and how we kind of both need to work on that together. So that is this story here. Next, I have a layout that I created with the June Stories by the Month kit from Allie Edwards. This one I do have a process video for. The thing that I love the most about this one is having these stamped floral backgrounds that I created to go behind these circled chipboard pieces. For this one, I talked about having a tea party at the house with Izzy. It was something that we just randomly decided to do one day, and definitely one of my favorite things from the springtime of this year. On the back side, I have a layout that I created using the Learn Story Kit. This one I kept to a really basic black, white, and red color scheme. And I printed this photo, which is Izzy climbing up to the top of this huge sand mountain that she was a little bit scared of. And when she got up there, just having the best time. And the thing that I wanted to tell her is, you know, what is this one? Oh, I just realized I put these in the wrong order. I've got 1, 4, 5, 2, and 3. Well, whatever, who cares? So I have these learning titles and then things that I hope that she learns. The quote here was the jumping off point for me, which is live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. So love that quote. This one, I believe there is a process video for this in the Learn Story Kit Crush series. My next layout here was one that I created for the Paige Evans design team. This one, I used a cut file to create a title that says happiness, and then another cut file here to create a filler card with a rainbow in it. This one, I just talked about, you know, the memories that I love the most of Izzy are the ones where we're just kind of uncontrollably laughing together. So I love having this photo captured of a tickle fight that we had, and then being able to talk about those types of moments that we have together. This next story I created using the May Stories by the Month kit from 2021. This one there is a process video for, although it is very simple. I added some of the tiny phrase stickers to the top and bottom of this photo of Izzy hanging upside down. My title, I believe, was Loving This Moment, and talking about being outside and swinging and just kind of an in the moment type of story. On the back side, I have another story that does not have a process video. This is one I created using the Cozy Story Kit, and I actually did it for a creative team assignment. I just didn't have enough time to film it. One of the things that I did is took one of the floral cards that came in the kit and I blew it up inside of Photoshop, printed it off on fabric paper, and then fussy cut all of the elements out so that I could rearrange them on this page to create this beautiful textured dimensional wreath. Love how this one turned out. It did take me forever to fussy cut all of that out, but it's totally worth it because this is definitely one of my favorite pages from 2020. So I've got the story here about going to the apple orchard. I loved this quote that says, rooted and grounded in love. And the photos are both of my kids holding hands walking through the aisles of trees. This next layout is one that was created inside of a class that I taught for big picture classes. The class that you can find this one in is Lists, Letters, and Lenses People. So I'm teaching a series of classes over on Big Picture using my 3 favorite journaling techniques, lists, letters, and lenses. And then we have 3 different classes, one that is focused on stories of people, one that will be coming out soon, it might actually already be out at this point, that is focusing on places, and then there will be one more that will be focusing on things, so people, places, and things. So this was a layout that I created in that class. This one is a layout that I created for the Learn Story Kit Crush series. This one there is not a process video for. I have a photo on the first day of kindergarten, which I homeschooled Izzy for kindergarten. So I've got myself, Izzy, and Jonah. I added this half circle down at the bottom and just date stamped all over it the first day of school for us. And then I've got this transparency that says lessons learned with the star on it. And behind that, I have this page of journaling where I have used the tiny phrase sticker circles as jumping off points for storytelling. So they work as both a bullet point and a prompt to help me tell the story. Next, I have a layout that I created for June using the June Stories by the Month kit. I believe this was using the physical kit from this year. I don't have a process video for this, I don't think. I may. If I do, it's in the playlist, but I also might not. So for this one, I wanted to talk about 10 things that I am loving right now. And to go with those 10 things, I have 10 pictures that have stickers on them, 1 through 10, so you know where they correspond to. That is a picture that depicts the 10 things that I am loving at the moment when I wrote this, which would have been, for me, May of 2020. Next, I have a layout, another one using the Kindness Story Kit for Story Kit Crush. There is a process video for this one. This, I wrote a letter to my daughter about being kind and why being kind is important, and my hopes for my daughter to, no matter what, to be kind to others as she grows and lives. On the left-hand side, I have a collage of pictures of Isabella and my son Jonah together. So this was a way for me to depict her being kind to her brother, which can then translate to being kind to all people as well. So that's that one. I did stamp out Dear Izzy and Heart Mommy. So well, I didn't stamp the heart, but Mommy, and then typed up the journaling in the middle. My next layout here is another one from the Learn Story Kit. This one is another story about school. For this one, I've got a pattern journaling card here at the top, the acrylic piece, and then I created a pocket on the right-hand side. There is a process video for this one. When you pull the tag booklet out of the pocket, there are photos in here, and then there are also some journaling tags. So this one is for the record and just talks about starting school and what that means. And then there's a photo on the back side. Then we've got a schedule tag. So I talked about what is our schedule throughout the day for homeschooling. And then I've got another picture of Izzy working on some stuff. And then I have one last page that talked about the very first day and what that was like. And then I've got a picture of the book that we read that day. So this is just a booklet of photos and more story. On the back side of this pocket, I have a 3x8 layout here that pairs with this one on the right-hand side. This I used the April 2019 Stories by the Month kit, I believe, to talk about playing in the dirt, being outside. These were some photos that I had taken when my kids were playing in the garden area when it was still kind of chilly, but warm enough for us to be able to go outside. This one I created over on Patreon during one of my live Craft With Me sessions, which you can find those videos over on that platform. And then last but not least, I have one more spread that I created over on Patreon using the Colorcast Designs. I want to say this was the July kit, possibly. So the word fabulous was what was included in the kit, and that made me think about my daughter's style. So I created a layout that has a bunch of her different outfits that she dressed herself in, talked about her style a little bit, and then called this one done. This is one oftentimes when I am sharing my process videos and working live on these projects with my patrons, I will offer any template that I create in Photoshop as a free download. So this one, I had created a template that had the 8 spots for photos and then the text at the bottom, so the spot to put in the journaling. So my patrons can just take that, pop it into Photoshop, add in their photos in their own words, and then print that off, and the story is already designed for them. So that's just one of the benefits to being a part of my Patreon. All right, friends, that is the conclusion of Volume 1 in Izzy's story album. So a wide variety of stories in this album, lots of different prompts, lots of different focuses, and it spans over a great amount of time. Some of those stories were from when Izzy was just a baby, and some of the stories are from right now in our lives. And that's actually really fun about something that is really fun about these albums is that because they're not chronological, you never quite know what story you're going to get when you open up the page. And to me, that's kind of like a little happy surprise for us. All right, friends, well, I hope that you enjoyed seeing the flip through of this album, and I hope that this inspires you to think of some ways that you might document the important people in your life as well. The thing that I love about creating albums like this one and the one for my son is when they are older, these are the albums that they are going to receive. They will be passed down to them, so they'll be able to read, at least from my perspective, the stories of their childhood. And in some cases, when I get their words into the book, they'll be able to see their own words in there as well. That's something that I think will be incredibly special for them as they get older. All right, if you have any questions about any of the layouts in here, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to check out the playlist where you can find all of the process videos for this album. And if any of the process videos were done over on Patreon, you can also find a link to my Patreon website there in the description box below as well. So you can check that out and see what it is all about. I am going to be back again later, I think maybe next week, with the flip through of my son's first album. So you'll be able to see the stories that I included in his. It's very much the same format as Isabella's, but obviously different stories since they are two different children, two different people. If you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up down below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you can catch all of my future crafty videos. I will see you guys in the next video whenever that comes out. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.